struggle is fucking real, by the way. Ah, I promised myself not to cuss the first minute. I've been really having an adventure attempting to, nice, I use the word attempting, not try. Attempting to find work online. Just like these freelancing websites are horrible. But thank God for them, because it's about time I get my shit together. Yay, on the positive side, I finished the UI of my website. And I started with the database. I actually finished the database. And over the next week, I'd be writing all basically the connections and data points and like posts and like brings and push and get and all that good stuff and updates. When I finish with the CRUD operation, I'll actually have a functioning website of which I'll have to kind of refine and do more work on. And then after I do that, I start thinking of features because I have one in my head that's kind of like driving me crazy. And I talked about it today on my voice note, so I don't forget. She reminded me I need to write in my book. But hey, I'm not going anywhere. I still have to do my notes. What's wrong with you? It's just an update. The note of today, anime, spirits, masters. And here I reference an anime that the anime that got me into this like nerdiness that I am right now. Zanpaktou and their Reapers, and how we have the similar relationship with our mind. If anyone here is familiar with an anime called Bleach, so anyone who wants to think of the history of anime, like there's one to rule them all, which is Dragon Ball Z. And the thing with Dragon Ball Z is it kind of initiated. I don't specifically like it, but it's very much 1980s, 1990s, like basically the pure, raw beginning phase of like good, wholesome anime, basically. It's like fighting for the world, getting stronger, overcoming your limitations, right? Granted, that dude was a fucking Super Saiyan, which means like every time he gets upset, he levels up. If only that was the case. But then after that, three animes basically, and they became the thing. One, which is Bleach, the one I'm talking about right now, and after that was Naruto, and after that was One Piece. Now, One Piece came before Bleach, but like I'm talking about Bleach right now, so we're sticking to Bleach. But the beauty of Bleach is this: is the world is split between the living and the non-living. And the non-living, there are the people that go into basically the soul society, where they get reincarnated again. And on the other side, the people that were not ready to leave Earth, they go into a place called Hueco Mundo. I know. It's funny because like everything about like hollows is Latin vibe. It's like all their names even are like Spanish. But basically people that refuse to leave the world, that hold resentment to real world after they die, what happens is their heart stays in the real world and they develop this void, and to fill this void they become like primal, animalistic, anywhere you look at it. But let's not look at them. Let's look at the soul reapers, because like the people that actually go to the soul society, what happens is they kind of like develop powers, they can actually train themselves, and they can become the people that help the hollows to transfer into like the soul society, to release them from their binding on earth, basically, right? So it's beautiful. You got people that die if they didn't want to die or are having issues. Oof, sorry, my bad. All right, so somebody ran on the door, cats left the house. I'm really not interested to go find them. So if they don't come back, it's a sign from God, right? Here we are. Anime. Now, in Bleach, there is a beautiful relationship because as they evolve, the Soul Reapers, in order to protect, they basically from them molded from their spirit, a sword is molded, and that sword is called a Zanpaktou. And they kind of have a soul, and they're able to engage with them. And as they level up, they're able to kind of like let them out and let them free and like let them express themselves. And they kind of show you that relationship as they talk to each other and all that good stuff. And here, I was thinking a couple of days ago, and it came to me that our relationship with our mind is kind of similar to their relationship with their swords. Because as their swords, as long as they're harmonious with their swords are super strong. If they're not harmonious with their swords kind of like don't really work up to par. If they're doing good, if they're being angry, like their swords kind of like chip easily and like get harmed. Whilst if they're being like calm, collected, and like very much understanding or like stuff like this, then their swords are sharper than ever. And I did a couple of videos where I mentioned the quotes that I actually like from Bleach. But if we were to imagine our relationship with our mind the same as a relationship with like a living entity, an actual entity that actually has its own kind of like sense of sovereignty, but its entire existence is because of us, then ultimately what we have with us is one of the strongest weapons in the world, basically, right? It's like with your mind, you can do anything you fucking want. With a healthy mind, you can do anything you want. Fuck, with the resources online, it'll take you 1 year to do anything you want. Anything you want. So you'd imagine like how I was thinking about how they, throughout the series, and especially like the guy who is the main protagonist, how he always was very selfishly trying to attempt things on his own, and he always used his sword specifically as a tool, which it was, and the sword never said it wasn't. But the problem is, the sword always had an issue because its full power was never exerted. And it was never exerted because the issue has always been that the sword was always used as a tool, never looked at as a partner, though. And hear me out. What does it mean looked at as a partner? We say the sword is an extension of your own self. It should be. You should practice with it until it becomes an extension of your own self. The same way for a writer, a pen is an extension of himself. The same way for a painter, a paintbrush is an extension of themselves. The same way for a programmer, a computer is an extension of themselves, right? And like in every single profession you see, you can find the tools of the trade that are extensions of themselves. But the truth behind it is, they're as much as they're using the tools, they're working with these tools in order to get the end result. So effectively, you see people like the carpenters, they're always like cleaning their equipment. The engineers, they're always kind of like refining their code. They're clean, whatever the tools that they're using. There's always like their creation is always kind of like supported by their actions. And it's a different relationship once you're actually approaching something from a I care about you perspective because I want you to support me into the future versus I need to use you to get to what I want, to get what I want done. And it's funny because in the entire series, like every single time he kind of like learns something new, he really has to fail and almost die before he learns it. And I feel that's how we do things when it comes to stress and anxiety. What effectively we do is we kind of like allow things to become stressful. It is stressful is literally us feeling stressed because of it, right? So we either allow things to get to a point where it's stressful, or we allow things to get to a point, we let things happen the way they did until we got stressed because of it. And all of these like the smaller differences that we could have like looked after, like cleaning our tools and basically like cleaning the tank every single time it dries out instead of actually refilling it and eventually we have like ugly water. Cleaning the tools, sharpening the tools so that we could always actually like so we could gain the same momentum that we did before when we were working. Tending, maintaining all these things that we have, we're no longer looking at the tools as tools alone. We're looking at them as partners, as supporters in what we're trying to do. And it's funny because like for the tools don't really talk to us, but they show us that they're feeling some kind of way anytime they're actually like not really treated properly. whether it's how greasy they look, how ugly they look, how like moldy they look, how I don't know, it's like deformed they look. All of these are basically the tools telling us I'm not working anymore properly because you kind of fucked up. You should have done this before. You should have done this differently. But our minds do the same thing. They're always engaging with us, except we're really not taking the time to look at them as partners. We're more like, I want to think. Are you really thinking, or is your mind doing the thinking? And how well can your mind think if it's cluttered with all sorts of stuff that you haven't decided to throw out? You haven't decided to kind of like deal with, tend to, clean, refine. How would you expect these things to actually like happen? And then what? You get stressed, you get anxiety, you get pressured, and all that good stuff. And naturally, that's when we actually have to do something or where we change in order not to. But I think there's a simpler way. It's just like looking at things from a partnership's perspective. It allows us more to treat ourselves with more respect than we normally would, the same way we would treat the tools that are with us, that make us actually, that allow us to express ourselves to the world the way we do, to treat the things that provide direct value to our life. And it's that like looking at our minds as a partner, a piece of our soul. It's a video.